translation.
Yes.
Being prayed for by the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth Himself, directly appeared with His expansion and expansions of the expansion. Their holy names were Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in 4 forms as the sons of Maharaj Dasarath. Purport 5, Divine Grace of the Prabhupada. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5:39. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. The Lord is situated in many forms, such as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. And these forms may exist in any part of His creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead, and they resemble many candles, all equally powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna, who, being Vishnu Tattva, are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaj Dasarath in response to prayers by the demigods. Hare Krishna. So first offering my pranam, sastang pranam, unlimited times to my worshipful Guru Pada Padma, Paramaratitam, Guru Pada Padma, Srimad Bhagavatam Class, Maharaj Gurudev, and to Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to the entire Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, to all assembled devotees, please accept my Dandavat pranams. We'll try to repeat some of the teachings of our Vaishnav Gaudiya Parampara, our Guru Varga. Very beautiful verse, very fortunate to come for this verse this day. Lord Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. Putratvam prartita surai Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrughna iti sangyaya. So we're entering the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, Srimad Bhagavatam. They're briefly described, not at great length, because we see that the Vedas and all the Puranas all compiled by Vedvyasadev. And so they're all working as the Vedic literature. So Mahabharata is there, and the Srimad Bhagavatam does not reiterate everything, but it's actually following from the Mahabharata. And then obviously Ramayana is so famous in Bharat in India and throughout the whole world. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's briefly described, but that doesn't mean it's being neglected. Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, they are the most important avatars of Sri Krishna, meaning Kesava Drita, Rama Sarira. Our understanding is ultimately, as Brahma Samhita describes, that Lord Krishna is who? Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Krishna, He is the original personality of Godhead, the controller of all controllers. But we should not think Lord Ram is any different. It's important tattva to understand what is Vishnu tattva. Here Srila Prabhupada is describing Vishnu tattva. Krishna is Ram. Keshavadrita Rama Sarira. Krishna is Kurma, Krishna is Varaha, Krishna is Parashuram, Krishna is Nrsimha. We see all the pictures. They're all Krishna. Srila Prabhupada established this very important understanding. Because in Tattva is there, but to help people understand in a very tangible way, it's important to make this very emphasized again and again. Because generally people think Hinduism, there's many gods. According to Tattva, it's not so. There's many demigods, there are vibhutis, as Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter describes, there's many demigods. And there are many angsas and angsenas, many parts and expansions of the one Supreme Lord. But ultimately, Shastra says, Ekam, He is one, right? The Supreme Lord is Advaya Gyan Paratattva. This is according to proper Vedanta literature. Advaya Gyan means that Supreme Absolute Truth is undivided. He is one. Even the jivas, they are, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaya Vangsa Jiva Loke, Vibhinangsa Tattva. We are also the expansions coming from the energy of the Supreme Lord. Jiva Tattva, Tatashta Shakti. That's also described by Shastra. So ultimately, Bhagavan is one. And Sabitara Das. All jivas are his eternal servants. So Lord Ram is so important. And we see how Ram Lila helps us gain entry in service in Krishna Lila. That's why 9th canto is Lord Ram, and then 10th canto is Lord Krishna. So without shelter of Lord Ram, how will we serve Sri Krishna? Without mercy of Lord Nrsingadev, how will we serve Sri Krishna? Nrsingadev Katha, 7th canto. So our Guru Maharaj would say like this, we have to take shelter of Das Avatar. So important to understand. In our temples, we all have, especially in India, we'll have dioramas, all the different avatars. Even we see Jayadev Goswami, Geet Govinda in the beginning. First, he honors all the Das avatars and establishes their tattva. And we see in the pastimes of Lord Ram, how Lord Ram and his Leela also complements Krishna Leela. And even in Braj, sometimes the Brajabasis will speak to Krishna and speak about Ram Leela. There's a place like Setu Banda in Braj, like the bridge. The Braja gopis were, asking Krishna, because he's always bragging, I was Ram, I was the Nrsingadev, I was this personality, this incarnation. They say, show it. So there was a kund in Braj. And he said, if I want, I can make a bridge over this kund. And they said, no, it's not possible. So he said, I'll call all my friends, the Bandars. They were also in Ram Leela. So they all came quickly and made a bridge. So Krishna said, I am like Ram also. So Krishna and Ram, we should understand they are one. But for Leela, Vaishishta, speciality of their pastimes, they appear in two forms. And ultimately, Krishna is the origin, Ishvara Parama Krishna. But Ram is so important, we cannot pass over the importance of Lord Ram. Ram is so dear to the hearts. Maryad Purushottama. Lord Ram teaches us how to properly live in spiritual life. Krishna is showing us, ultimately come to my abode. We have to go to Goloka ultimately, back home, back to Godhead. That's our goal. Pancham Purushartha Krishna Prem. The ultimate goal of human life, human civilization, is to go to Krishna, to go to his supreme abode. But how will we go there? What is our sadhana? What is our abhideya, a process? So we take shelter of Lord Ram and his Maryad. What does it say about Lord Ram? Raghukule Reet Sada Chalayai Pran Jai or Vachana Na Jai. In the Raghukula dynasty, all the kings, all the descendants in that lineage, they had a vow. I will rather give up my life than break my word of honor. This is Maryad. Perfectly following rules and regulations according to Sastra, according to our Guru Varga. We don't have time to go into Ram Katha so much, but Ram Katha is so wonderful. So we can all, just meditate. We all know so much Ram Katha. So usually what we do in the mornings after our japa, we learn a new verse every day. We memorize a verse, Bhagavatam verse, now we're learning. But what we like to do is, along with the verse, learn that section, that chapter, the theme. In the evenings in the ashram, we're reading and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam every evening. And morning times, all the brahmacharis, we learn a new verse and discuss. But afterwards, we can do our smaran, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, hearing, chanting, remembering. So when we read this verse, now it gives an udipan for Ram Katha. So even though we don't have time, we have so much time during the day. Why we have such a strong morning sadhana is so that can influence the rest of the day. When we're driving, when we have any spare time, eating, we can think about Bhagavan. So important. Smaran. Remember Sri Krishna, remember Lord Ram. Lord Ram is described like the Lord it's described here in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna is like the original candle. He's referring to the Brahma Samhita verse. He's lighting all the other candles. The other candles doesn't mean they're less bright or luminous, but they're still the original. So this is described in the Brahma Samhita. That Sri Krishna, he is the Upanishad state. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bhunam yo vidadati kaman. That the supreme absolute truth is one. From him, that one eternal being, come all the other eternal beings. Even all jivas, they're all eternal. This is the basic ABCs of Bhagavad Gita, right? Najayate mrite vakara chinnayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya jonitya sasvata yam purana nahanyate hanyamane sarire. What is the nature of the jiva? They're all eternal, but Krishna is the original eternal being. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetanam. He is the original conscious entity, and from him come all conscious entities. Eko, he alone, bahunam, of the many, vidadati kamam, can satisfy all desires. So in Ram Leela, to show how Ram Leela and Krishna Leela connect. In Ram Leela, when Lord Ram was in the Dandakaranya forest, there were many rishis, sages, performing tapasya for thousands of years. And they were actually chanting Krishna mantra, Gopal mantra. And when they saw Lord Ram, they were so attracted to the beauty of the Supreme Lord, they prayed to have a sambandha, relation with him, connection. And he said, in my next avatar, as Lord Krishna, then you will appear in Braj, and you can be with me. So it's very interesting to see how Lord Ram and Krishna Leela are connected in this way. Also, all the murtis of Sita Maharani, Sita Devi. To skip ahead, when Sita Devi went to the ashram of Valmiki, and Lord Ram was at that time without his wife. So every year he would do yagya, Rajasuya yagya. And the rule for householders, your wife must be present, she is half. So they told Ram, the gurus told Vashishta, Vishwamitra, take another wife, Patni. He said, no, I'm Eka Patni Vrata, taking a vow. So they made a golden murti of Sita Devi. And every year they would have another golden murti of Sita Devi. So it's described by our acharyas that all those murtis of Sita Devi, they also prayed, oh Ram, how can we be with you, not just as murti, but have Leela with you? So he said, in my next incarnation as Krishna, you can be present as gopis. So at the time of Krishna Leela, all the sadhan siddha gopis, they were the Dandakaranya sages, 60,000 sages, Sita Murti. Also, Upanishadchari, Shrutichari, Vedachari, Smritichari, they had done tapasya, personified Vedas, did tapasya to perform pastimes with Krishna and serve him. So they all became Brajagopis. And at the time of Katyani Brat, they all did this puja and achieved Sri Krishna as their beloved. So we can see the connection between Lord Krishna and Lord Ram in Sastra. And so we should understand Kesava Drita Rama Sarita, Kesava Drita Narasingha Rupa. But of all the avatars, Lord Ram and the Shringadev actually are described to be paravast, complete avatars. So we especially take shelter of Lord Ram for following proper dharma niti, properly following dharma in our lives. Otherwise, spiritual life can become just sentimentalism. Our Guru Varga tells us emphatically, Shruti Smriti Pancharatram Vidimbina Ekantikir Harir Bhakti Utpat Eva Kevalam. If you want to worship Hari one-pointedly, Ekantik Bhakti, because Krishna says in the Gita, Ananya Chintayantamam, be one-pointed to me. In so many places he teaches us to be one-pointed. But if we want to be one-pointed and properly go on the course of spiritual life, how do we do it? Therefore, Shastra says, Shruti Smriti Puranari Pancharatrim Vinimmida Ekantiki Harir Bhakti Utpat Eva Kevalam. If you want to follow Hari, worship Hari one-pointedly, but you don't follow Shruti Smriti Purana Pancharatrim Vinim, rules and regulation of Shastra, your performance of Hari Bhakti will only be a nuisance to yourself and to others. Utpat. In Hindi they say Utpat. So don't be an Utpat. Means a rascal, Srila Prabhupada would say. Busy fool, only causing mischief. Follow rules and regulations. Dharma. Even if it causes pain to yourself, you should never forsake the path of dharma. We see this in the pastimes of Lord Ram. How much sacrifice for the sake of the jivas. So many pastimes but that exhibit this. Not just in Lord Ram, but Bharat, Shatrughna, Lakshman. How they all followed this path of dharma. How Lakshman was the perfect sevak. Being master is very difficult, but being sevak is even more difficult. Master has so much responsibility. But sevak, you see the stories of Lord Ram, how Lakshman was dedicated to the service of Lord Ram. That Sita Devi went with Ram, but Lakshman, he left his wife at home. He said, how will I be a perfect sevak? The entire 14 years of exile in the forest, every night Lakshman would stay awake the whole night to protect and to stand guard. He tolerated everything and served tirelessly, even though so many difficult instructions were given to him. He followed, he never complained against his elder brother. Lord Ram told him, collect wood for funeral, for the fire yagya for Sita Devi. Even though it was paining his heart, he followed the order of his brother. And we see afterwards when Ram gave him another instruction, Lakshman took Sita. Because ultimately, what does it mean to be sevak? Jo agya. Kinkari. Kinkar means what to do, how can I serve? So Lakshman served so much, and we see in the final pastimes of Ram, one time only Lakshman broke the instruction of Ram. One time only. Why? To give up his own life. He gave up his own life, sacrificed himself to save the kingdom and to save the dynasty in Ram. You know the story. When Ram had returned from defeating Ravan and the whole army of Lanka, and he was staying, and after Sita Devi went to Valmiki Ashram, all the pastimes were almost concluded. So one time, this sage Durvasa came. So before this, there's a story that, this is a famous pastime in Ramcharitra. So it's described that one personality came. Who was he? He was Kal, time personified. And he came to meet with Ram and said, I need to have a private meeting. And in that meeting, no one can interrupt. If anyone interrupts, then the whole dynasty, everything will be cursed. I need to have a private darshan, like half-hour meeting. Private meeting with Lord Ram. So Ram said, okay. And he told Lakshman, you've always been with me. As my brother, as my companion, as my protector. So I want you to stand guard at the gate. Don't let anyone enter until I'm finished with my meeting. No one can enter. And if anyone enters, if you let anyone enter, you have to give up your life. You have to give you up. This is what the Kal, he didn't describe I am Kal, but this personality came in the form as Kal. And he said, if anyone enters, they'll have to give up their life. They'll have to be given up. So Lakshman was standing guard at the gate. In the meantime, as soon as the meeting began, Durvasa Muni came. Durvasa Muni, he is famous to be somehow agitating the Leela of the Lord. Like a, agent, like yogurt agent, agitating to bring out more makkah ultimately. But sometimes it's very hard to accept. That's why, anyhow, we have to follow dharma. Even in life, when you see Ram Leela, so many difficult things happen. But even we shouldn't, sacrifice our integrity and our values. The ends justify the means. It's a very dangerous path. Oh, no problem. I can do whatever as long as it's for the righteous cause. This is not Ram's example in his life. So Lakshman was standing guard. Durvasa came and said, I need to see Lord Ram at once. I need to see Ram at once. Lakshman said, please, wait a minute. Anything you need, I'll fulfill. And if it's not possible, within a few minutes we can see Lord Ram. Anything you need, I'll fulfill. He said, no, if I don't see Ram right now, I'll destroy everything. This whole dynasty will be pralay. I need to see Ram. How can you, I'm Rishi, and you're not letting me see Lord Ram. Kshatriyas are supposed to serve the Brahmins and the sages, not letting me see him. What could be the cause of him not? Who is more important than me that can he's in a meeting and he can't see me. It's like Srila Prabhupada comes. No, temple president, I'm in a meeting. Durvasa is saying like, who is, I'm Durvasa. So he said, no, wait a minute. And so therefore, Lakshman said, okay, I must go in. I'll give up myself to protect the dynasty and to protect Lord Ram. Because that was the condition. If anyone comes, they'll have to give up their life. So Lakshman went inside and said, oh Ram, please, I'm so sorry, I know this was against your order. But Durvasa Muni is waiting outside. You must, he's insisting on your darshan. So Ram, his face was so sad. On one hand, Ram couldn't break his word. Raghukulerit Sarachalayai, he couldn't break his word. And so Lakshman had to be given up. And he said, why have you done this? He said, oh, if I didn't, then Durvasa Rishi said the whole dynasty would be destroyed. So therefore then Durvasa Muni entered the room and Kal left. And then Ram said, oh Durvasa. Ram didn't complain to Durvasa. He said, gave him a seat, washed his feet, gave pranam, said, how can I serve you? He said, oh, bahut bhook lagi. I'm very hungry. Bring me some prasad. Ram's thinking you couldn't, just wait a few minutes. But this is the Leela of the Lord. So he gave him prasad, everything very nicely. And then he spoke for a few minutes and left. Afterwards, he called Vishishta, Vishwamitra, and said, what should we do? I cannot kill Lakshman. So they said to forsake him, to do tyag, is this worse than death. So therefore Ram told Lakshman, now you must leave the kingdom and be exiled. So Lakshman left the kingdom, and it's described at that time then Lakshman entered into Anantashesh and left. And then shortly after that, Lord Ram with all the Ayodhyabasis went to this Ayodhya Dham, Sanket Dham. So in this way, this is how the Lord's pastimes concluded. These are all transcendental pastimes, hard to understand, but the point is to understand that human life is for service, for dedication, for taking responsibility, for sacrifice, yajna, to the Supreme Lord, through sadhana. And if He is pleased with our efforts, through our dedication, then we can go to the better place. This world is ultimately not, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, this world is not a good place for a gentleman. This world will never be fully happy, always happy. Ultimately, there's a verse by Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. When Rupa Goswami left and came to Vrindavan on the order of Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami was in jail. And he said, anyhow, he wrote him a letter, anyhow escape and come to Vrindavan. Why? Where is that Ayodhya Puri of Lord Ram? Where is the Yadu dynasty? Knowing that this world, nothing will last forever, you should come and do bhajan. Escape and do bhajan. Because ultimately, nothing in this world will last, but what will last forever is our relationship with Shri Guru Gauranga, Shri Radha Krishna. And so in this life, we endeavor to serve, to develop relationship with them, and to always be with them. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyakta deham punar janma neti mameti so Arjuna. O Arjuna, know that my pastimes are transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam. My birth and my pastimes are transcendental. They're not mundane. And also, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata. That person who understands my transcendental birth and pastimes and activities, when he gives up this body, tyakta deham, when he gives up the material body, then punarjanma. We will not have to take again repeated birth and death in material existence. Instead, we'll go to the spiritual world and be with Krishna blissfully forever. So therefore, we have to follow proper maryad. We learn this from Lord Ram. We see in the pastimes of Lakshman, we see in Bharat so many pastimes. How he was so dedicated. Even though he was given the kingdom, he remained in the position of a steward. He kept Lord Ram's shoes on the throne, and he lived like a hermit. The entire time Ram was in Vanvas, he was also like in Vanvas. And he said that, because he said, oh Ram, I cannot take this is yours. I'm your servant only. So he said, if you don't come back in 14 years exactly, I'll give up my life. I'll enter into fire. So after Ram killed Ravan, he was coming back on the heavenly celestial airplane. But it was very close to the time. And so Ram sent Hanuman ahead and said, go and see Bharat and tell him I'm just now coming. So it's described that Hanuman flew, and as he came to Ayodhya, Bharat was doing parikrama of the fire to enter inside. He said, I've told Ram I would stay 14 years, but if he doesn't come back that day, I'll give up my life. So Hanuman stopped and said, no, Lord Ram is just now coming. And then within a few minutes, Ram came. We see the dedication. Also, we can take this lesson of Lord Ram, and we'll conclude with this. How they were 4 brothers, equally able to be kings and rulers, but they were always united as one. Even though all circumstances came to divide them, they remained united. And even though there were conflict and problems, sometimes Lakshman was angry. When Bharat was coming to try to bring Ram back, Lakshman was angry, I'll fight with them. And Ram said, wait, be patient. Don't act rashly and judge prematurely. We see this pastime. When Bharat was coming, Ram should come back, but he was coming with all the Yodhibasis. And Lakshman was saying, he's not satisfied taking the kingdom, he's going to attack us. Ram said, be patient and wait. And they met with him, and then they had an assembly with Maharaj Janak. And ultimately, a beautiful discussion. But we see this, the 4 brothers, they always served one another and cooperated. And so our Guru Varga always tells us, if we can cooperate, then there's nothing we cannot do in service. But if we cannot cooperate, then a house divided cannot stand. So this is an important lesson. And we see, unfortunately, throughout history, as the course of time, especially in Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga's nature is kalam, lati, to quarrel. So it's very difficult to cooperate, but anyhow, we must make efforts. And that's why Jive Saman Dive, honor all, respect all, Yata Yogya Saman. If we respect others, how can we cooperate? Amani Manad Hoy Krishna Nam Sadalave, Brajarada Krishna Manasi Seva Kurive. What do we sing in this morning? We do this also Shikshastram every day. If we develop these qualities, then cooperation is easy. Anyhow, we must maintain integrity and follow our Guru's instructions, but at the same time, cooperation should be there. And respectful appreciation and understanding and admiration of each other's good qualities. Look at the good of others. Our Guru Maharaj would say, Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. Kaler dosha nidhi rajan. Asti eko mahadguna. Kali Yuga, if you want to look for faults, it's easy to find them. Anywhere you look, you can find faults, but can you find the goodness? Bhagavan is bhava grahi janardana. He sees the goodness in others. So what is the good quality? Kirtanadeva Krishnasya mukta sangha param prajet. Sadhu sangha Krishna kirtan. Ematra chai. Sadhu sangha Krishna kirtan. These are the good qualities. So however we can, we should amplify the goodness. And naturally, bad qualities will dissipate. Where there is light, darkness cannot remain. So if we focus on the good qualities and facilitate development of that, Krishna Kirtan, Sadhu Sangha, Bhagavat Prasad, Mandirs, Thakurji Seva, these 5 limbs, Shraddhaya Murtir Sevan, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, then automatically everything will become auspicious. But if Krishna Kirtan stops, if Thakurji Seva stops, Bhagavat Shravan stops, then we may work so hard to have a nice facility, a nice organization, but the soul is gone. So if we keep the soul thriving, then the body and everything will naturally be healthy. So we must feed the soul and take care of the body as the temple. The temple is the body, the soul is the life. And the life of soul of Vaishnavas, Harikatha, Kirtan, Sadhu Sangha, Bhagavat Shravan, Prasad, Murti Seva, this is the life and soul. Book distribution, life and soul. Nam Hatta. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, Nam Hatta and Brihad Mridanga, these are the most important sevas to Mayapur. This is in his instructions. Brihad Mridanga, book distribution, and Nam Hatta programs, and temple seva. So, thank you so much, Guruji, allowing me to serve a little bit, and please correct me and anything you'd like to say. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It was an amazing class. Very nice to the point. I think we all needed that kind of inspiration. And what better inspiration than coming from nice devotees like that, passion of really nice top class passion for that. There's some realization which I got, Prabhu. It was very nice what you said about Rama, about Maryada, that Maryada is so important for our bhakti process, and we pray to Lord Ram. When you were saying it makes so much sense that Iskcon, we always say, oh, Lord Krishna, everything, but just like gopis were praying to Katyayani to get there, all our Vishnu Tattvas, they are all equal and bound. It's just that Krishna is supreme, so we should all pray to all of them and take their mercy, because through their mercy we can always get to Krishna for that. So, very nice. Prabhu, I have a question about Shatrughna. I know there's not much said about Shatrughna in the Ramayana. Or Bharat, a lot of sacrifices. But I know Shatrughna very devoted to his brother. But more than that, it's not much said. Is there anything?
There's many sweet pastimes. Later on, he was the ruler of this area of Mathura and other areas. So there's some pastimes. He killed some demons. But he was also, sometimes that's also a sacrifice, taking the minor part. But he was like Bharat Shatrughna, like Ram Lakshman, both brothers. And there's many nice kathas also. Their wedding katha and many different pastimes. But especially in the later pastimes, in the later sections, we find some katha. How he was actually, ruler. That Vrahadev in Mathura Dham, original, he was established by Shatrughna. And so there's many pastimes actually of Shatrughna in later sections when he was himself. What Ram did is, afterwards he divided his kingdom, and each of the brothers actually ruled different areas. So this was later on in his pastimes. And then ultimately Lav and Kush, continued Ayodhya's. But yeah, there are some pastimes. Lavanasura. There's a very interesting pastime, Lavanasura. He was such a powerful demon. He had this weapon. And he had a boon that as long as he had this weapon, he could not be killed by anyone. So whenever he would fight, he would have the weapon, he could defeat anyone. So Shatrughna was sent to fight with him, but he waited, he had gone out, and he had not come back to his place. And Shatrughna challenged him. And so if you're a Kshatriya, you cannot, neglect a challenge. And so he fought and defeated him. But it was a very fearsome battle. He was a very powerful demon. So there's many pastimes. But they are all actually described to be like incarnations of, in one sense, Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. The 4 Vedas appeared as 4 brothers. And who are the 4 Vedas? 4 Vedas are Bhagavan. Everything first comes from Om, Nam Brahma, Akshara Brahma. Akshara Brahma comes from Bhagavan, the form of the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's described from Akshara Brahma, then comes Veda, Gayatri. From Akshar Om comes Gayatri. From Gayatri Mata comes the Vedas. So it's described that the 4 brothers are also considered like manifestations of the 4 Vedas, is one understanding. So you can see some relation between them and their respective sastra.
The Setubandh is still there in Raja, or it will disappear already?
I don't think it's present there, but yeah, this is one sweet pastime.
Perfectly.
The gopis afterwards said, "What have you done? Everything was done by the monkeys. You're just a manager. You have your own, party of rogues."
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was so amazing. Really appreciate you.
Vanchakapatribhusya kripasindhave cha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Ram Leela is so sweet.
Rasik Mohan Prabhu.
Now, program.
So in 15 minutes probably, if you want to get